John Henry, one of the most famous spirits aboard the Queen Mary, a young crew member who tragically died in the ship's engine room. His ghost is often seen near the area where he was crushed to death by a watertight door during a drill. Welcome to Creepy Weird Stuff, where the past never stays buried and the spirits of the dead still walk among us. Tonight, we're diving into another 10 terrifying tales from America's most haunted places, where the echoes of history refuse to fade and the restless dead still linger. These aren't just ghost stories. They're chilling encounters that will send shivers down your spine. Turn off the lights, lock your doors, and prepare yourself. We're about to journey through the shadowy corners of some of the most haunted locations in the country. In these places, the past is never truly gone, and every whisper or creak might just be something or someone from the other side. Are you ready? Because once we begin, there's no turning back. The Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado, is famously known as the inspiration for Stephen King's The Shining, but the hotel has its own real-life hauntings that have terrified guests for years. Built in 1909, this grand hotel has been the site of numerous ghostly sightings and unexplained phenomena. One of the most famous spirits said to haunt the hotel is that of F.O. Stanley himself, the hotel's original owner. Guests have reported seeing Stanley's ghost in the lobby and the billiard room, dressed in formal attire, watching over the hotel as if it were still under his care. Another well-known apparition is that of Flora Stanley, F.O. Stanley's wife. Flora was known for her love of music, and guests often report hearing the sounds of piano music coming from the ballroom late at night. When they investigate, they find the room empty. The piano keys are still moving as if being played by an invisible hand. Room 217 is one of the most haunted rooms in the hotel. Guests have reported seeing ghostly apparitions, hearing strange noises, and feeling an unseen presence. One of the most frequent sightings is that of a chambermaid who reportedly haunts the room after a tragic accident in the early 20th century. She is said to straighten up the room, fold clothes, and even tuck guests into bed. Deep within Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, lies the foreboding Eastern State Penitentiary, once one of the most infamous prisons in the United States. Opened in 1829, it was designed to reform prisoners through strict isolation and solitude. But these severe conditions instead drove many inmates to the brink of madness. The chilling walls of Eastern State are said to harbor the tormented souls of those who suffered and perished within its cold, unforgiving cells. One of the most notorious spirits is Al Capone, who served time here in the 1920s. Capone was reportedly haunted by the ghost of James Clark, one of the victims of the St. Valentine's Day massacre. The ghostly encounters were so intense that Capone desperately pleaded with guards for protection from the vengeful spirit that tormented him every night in his cell. Even today, visitors report hearing Capone's distressed cries and feeling an overwhelming sense of unease near his former cell. Another sinister apparition is that of Joseph Taylor, an inmate who brutally murdered another prisoner. His spirit is said to haunt cell block 12, where visitors often hear inexplicable voices, whispers, and anguished cries. Shadowy figures are frequently seen flitting in and out of cells, and many have reported an oppressive sensation of being watched by unseen eyes. The ghost of a locksmith is also said to linger within the penitentiary. According to legend, the locksmith was working in one of the old cells when he was suddenly overwhelmed by a force that paralyzed him and caused him to see horrifying visions of the prisoners who once inhabited the cell. Ever since, that particular cell has been associated with an unsettling sense of malevolence. Docked in Long Beach, California, the RMS Queen Mary is a retired ocean liner with a reputation for being one of the most haunted ships in the world. Once a luxury cruise liner and later a troop ship during World War II, the Queen Mary is now a floating hotel and museum where guests and visitors frequently report encounters with the supernatural. John Henry, one of the most famous spirits aboard the Queen Mary, a young crew member who tragically died in the ship's engine room. His ghost is often seen near the area where he was crushed to death by a watertight door during a drill. Visitors report hearing the sound of clanging metal and disembodied voices, and some have even seen wet footprints leading away from the door where he met his untimely end. The Queen Mary's swimming pools, despite being long drained, are notorious for paranormal activity. Visitors report hearing splashing water and the laughter of unseen children. The ghost of a young girl named Jackie, who drowned in the second-class pool, is often seen playing by the poolside or calling out for her mother. A woman in a 1930s bathing suit is frequently seen around the first-class pool, accompanied by the scent of perfume and faint, ghostly laughter. The B340 cabin has a history of eerie occurrences like covers being pulled off, faucets turning on by themselves, and unexplained knocking. Closed for years due to its unsettling past, it has only recently reopened for brave visitors. The Driskill Hotel in Austin, Texas, built in 1886, is known for its ghostly encounters. The spirit of Colonel Jesse Driskill is often seen near the grand staircase, and guests report the smell of his cigar smoke. The Maximilian Room, adorned with portraits, is infamous for the unsettling feeling of being watched. A young girl who is said to have died in the hotel after a fall down the grand staircase in the early 1900s. She is often seen holding a ball, dressed in a Victorian-era dress, and guests have reported hearing the sound of a child's laughter and footsteps running through the halls, only to find no one there. Two different brides, separated by years, both took their own lives in the same room on their wedding night. Guests who stay in this room often report cold spots, flickering lights, and the sensation of a heavy, sorrowful presence. Some have even claimed to see a bride in a wedding gown standing at the foot of their bed. In St. Augustine, Florida, the historic St. Augustine Lighthouse stands tall, guiding ships safely to shore. However, this iconic landmark is also known for its eerie tales and ghostly apparitions. Built in 1874, the lighthouse has been the site of numerous tragic events, leaving behind a legacy of restless spirits. One of the most famous ghostly figures is that of Eliza and Mary, the daughters of the lighthouse's superintendent who died in a tragic accident while playing near the construction site. Their playful spirits are often seen and heard giggling around the lighthouse grounds, particularly near the area where they lost their lives. Visitors have reported hearing the sound of children's laughter and footsteps running up and down the spiral staircase, only to find the space empty. The ghost of a former lighthouse keeper is also said to haunt the tower. Legend has it that he fell to his death while painting the lighthouse. His spirit is often seen climbing the stairs or looking out from the top of the lighthouse, as if still keeping watch over the sea. There's a woman in white believed to be the wife of a former keeper, is often seen wandering the lighthouse grounds, her figure appearing and disappearing among the trees and shadows. Her presence is said to be accompanied by a feeling of deep sorrow, and some have even reported hearing her mournful cries carried on the wind. The Whaley House, located in San Diego, California, is one of the most famous haunted houses in the United States. Built in 1857 by Thomas Whaley on the site of a former execution ground, the house has a long history of paranormal activity. Over the years, it has served as a family home, a granary, a courthouse, and even a theater. But it is best known for its ghostly residents. Yankee Jim Robinson, a drifter who was hanged on the property before the house was built. His ghost is said to haunt the grounds, and visitors often report hearing heavy footsteps and feeling a chilling presence, especially near the staircase where he was executed. Thomas Whaley himself claimed to hear the ghostly footsteps of Yankee Jim echoing through the house. Jim's wife, Anna Whaley. Her ghost is often seen on the second floor of the house, particularly in the garden and the upstairs bedroom. Guests have reported seeing a woman in a long, flowing dress, with her face appearing sad and distant. The scent of her lavender perfume often lingers in the air after her apparition fades away. The ghost of Thomas Whaley is also said to haunt the house. He has been seen standing at the top of the stairs or looking out of the windows, his presence often accompanied by the smell of cigar smoke. Some visitors have even reported hearing the sound of a man's voice echoing through the halls, calling out for his family.
Anna? Violet?
Perched high in the mountains of Jerome, Arizona, the Jerome Grand Hotel has a reputation as one of the most haunted hotels in the state. Originally opened in 1927 as the United Verde Hospital, it was once the most modern and well-equipped medical facility in Arizona. However, due to the numerous deaths that occurred within its walls during its time as a hospital, it has since become a hotspot for paranormal activity. Claude Harvey, a hospital maintenance worker who was found dead under mysterious circumstances in the elevator shaft in 1935. His death was ruled an accident, but many believe foul play was involved. Guests and staff at the hotel often report hearing the sound of the elevator moving on its own, as well as disembodied voices and footsteps near the elevator shaft where Claude was found. There's also a nurse who is said to still roam the halls, tending to her patients even in death. Guests have reported seeing a woman dressed in a nurse's uniform, walking the corridors late at night, her footsteps echoing through the silent hallways. Some have even heard the sounds of a hospital trolley being wheeled down the halls. The hotel's third floor is particularly notorious for paranormal activity. It was once the hospital's psychiatric ward, and many guests report feeling a sense of unease and dread when staying in rooms on this floor. Some have reported hearing strange, otherworldly noises and feeling as though they are being watched by unseen eyes. The ghost of a crying baby is also often heard, particularly in the middle of the night. Guests have reported waking up to the sound of a baby's cries echoing through the halls, but when they investigate, they find nothing. This haunting sound is said to be connected to the many tragic deaths that occurred in the maternity ward during the hospital's operation. Lizzie Borden, a name forever etched in infamy, lived in a house that became the site of one of America's most notorious unsolved murders. In Fall River, Massachusetts, on August 4, 1892, her father, Andrew Borden, and stepmother, Abby Borden, were brutally murdered with an axe. Although Lizzie was the prime suspect, she was ultimately acquitted of the crime. Despite the verdict, the house where the gruesome event took place has become synonymous with the tragedy, and many believe that the spirits of the Bordens still linger within its walls. Visitors to the Lizzie Borden house frequently report seeing the ghost of Abby Borden at the top of the stairs or in the room where she was murdered, often feeling a sudden drop in temperature, while Andrew Borden's spirit is said to haunt the living room sofa where he was killed, with guests experiencing the eerie sensation of someone sitting beside them or seeing his apparition staring out of the windows. The house is also said to be haunted by other spirits, including a young girl who died in the home years before the murders. Her ghost is often seen playing in the basement or heard giggling in the hallways, Some visitors have even reported hearing the faint sound of a child's voice singing nursery rhymes. In the heart of New Orleans' French Quarter stands the LaLaurie Mansion, a grand yet ominous building with a dark and disturbing history. Built in 1832, the mansion was once home to Madame Delphine LaLaurie, a prominent socialite known for her wealth and influence. However, underneath the facade of elegance and respectability, Madame LaLaurie was hiding a horrifying secret. In 1834, a fire broke out at the mansion, revealing the gruesome truth about what was happening inside. It was discovered that Madame LaLaurie had been torturing and mutilating enslaved people in the mansion's attic. The shocking revelations horrified the public, and Madame LaLaurie fled the city, never to be seen again. However, the horrors that took place within the mansion's walls left a permanent stain, and it is believed that the tortured souls of her victims still haunt the property to this day. The mansion's oppressive atmosphere is so intense that many people who enter the building report feeling nauseous or overwhelmed with a sense of dread. Some have even claimed to see the ghostly figure of Madame LaLaurie herself. Our last location is in the shadowy heart of Jefferson, Texas. The Jefferson Hotel, a place where history and horror are intertwined in a dark and unsettling dance. Built in the 1850s, this seemingly quaint hotel hides a chilling legacy of sorrow, death, and restless spirits that refuse to leave. The walls of the Jefferson Hotel have seen it all, from the clandestine operations of a brothel and speakeasy to the unspeakable tragedies that have forever tainted its rooms. On her wedding night, a young bride took her own life in room 19, consumed by despair. Her presence is not just seen, but felt. Guests report waking up in the dead of night, drenched in a cold sweat, as if someone is lying beside them in the bed. The lights flicker ominously, and a suffocating chill fills the room, as if the very air is heavy with her sorrow. Some have even glimpsed her ghostly figure in a tattered wedding gown, staring blankly at them before fading into the shadows. A man in a long coat and wide-brimmed hat paces endlessly. In the hallways, his face obscured in darkness. His footsteps echo through the empty corridors, and those who encounter him describe a sense of impending doom that grips them, as if they are being watched by something far more sinister than a mere spirit. The man is believed to be a former guest who met a violent, bloody end within the hotel's walls, and his spirit is forever bound to the place of his torment. But the hotel's most unsettling presence might be that of a little girl who is often seen lingering near the grand staircase. Her laughter is not the innocent sound of a child at play, but something twisted, like a mockery of joy. The third floor of the Jefferson Hotel is a place of pure dread, where the atmosphere is thick with malevolence. Guests often hear the sound of heavy furniture scraping across the floor above them, only to discover that the room is empty. Doors slammed shut with violent force, and the faint, eerie notes of a piano, long since removed from the hotel, drift through the air. Have you been to any of these haunted places? I'd love to hear about your experiences in the comments below. Thank you for joining me on this terrifying journey through some of America's most haunted locations. If you're fascinated by the eerie and the unexplained, you found the right channel. Be sure to subscribe, like, or leave a comment. Until next time, stay curious, stay brave, and stay spooky.